Baseball, Books, and Banter with me, your host, Nicole. Everybody yell and scream, woo! Or the tens that are listening, I hope you're excited for another new episode. This episode is a little different from our usual. Like I said, sometimes I just do this podcast for myself, and this is one of those times, but hopefully you get something out of it and you learn a little something, and you also learn that you're not alone in the world of baseball fandom. I'm talking to John and Leeroy from the Baseball Books. Nope, that's me. The Baseball Book Club podcast. I found them on Facebook. We talked a little bit about that. And I was like, well, these two guys sound right up my alley to talk to. So not only am I going to cross promote their podcast, I just think it was a really great discussion of nostalgia, history, some of the problems with baseball today. We really hit a lot of topics. You'll be surprised. And shout out to David Raymond. I shout you out in there because we talk heavily about the Pirates. You might want to reach out to them because they have thoughts on the Pirates ownership. But it was really nice. And I liked getting some of their the backstory of how they started this, why they continue to do this. So I hope you enjoy that part. But before we get into the interview, you know what time it is. It's time for Things I'm Obsessed With. Not quite the jingle, but we'll see. We'll make it up as we go along. I've been watching a lot of TikToks lately, as I do. And one is the new trend of buying your cat's concrete pavers for the middle of the floor. I did go to Lowe's and I did buy a $2 paver. I did charge it in the sun. They say put it in the sun, let it get warm and toasty, and then bring it in. And they did like to lay on it when it was warm. But not unlike the cats on the internet, my three do not roll around and cause general havoc. Mine just sit on it. So maybe it's just nice on their bones. Fern likes to sit on it and look all beautiful. So check out my TikTok. You can see what the two cats do. Madeline could give two flying F's about it. She's not a fan of new toys. She's right now currently sleeping on in an Amazon box in my living room, which is when you open the Amazon box, take out your purchase, you just leave the box because the cats will sit in it. So that's one thing I'm really into. The other thing is, we talk about it in the podcast, but the batting stance guy, and for those of a certain age, us millennials, I know him from like the mid 2000s, where he would mimic batting stances on like YouTube. And one of the ones I remember vividly is the Kevin Youkilis stance. For those that know, it's very crooked and very like, looks like he has to go potty, and just, it worked. He was the Greek god of walks, but it also worked. He was a good player. But lately he's been doing recreations of 1970s, 1980s baseball cards, and it's really funny some of the descriptors they use to get the pictures. So check out the batting stance guy on TikTok. Another thing, I look a little tired today. I'm on a bingo hangover from the Cozy Mystery bingo last night. If you're a member of the group, first of all, it's a great group. I meet so many people. I met so many people at Malice Domestic this year from the group. I think I've talked about it before. Readers, writers, just friends in general. I consider them all great. While we were playing, I won bingo, which was so exciting. I think it's because I went to the Brockton Dollar Tree and got myself a dauber for $1.25. This price hasn't gone up yet. And I still got a lot left, so I can go play bingo for the rest of my days. So I won a book bundle. This week has been a really good week for me winning books. I won a historical mystery pack from Kings River Life, which is a great online magazine and Facebook page to follow for mystery books. I also won a book from Olivia Black, who ended up with an extra signed book of one, and I won it, and I'm very excited. It's another historical mystery. And then I also won last night bingo books, and I'm very excited. And while on the call, Misty Simon was there, also a mystery author. She has so much good stuff. And she offered to do a giveaway. So I added a giveaway to the quote unquote Wheel of Losers. For those that didn't win books, they got to get the Wheel of Losers and win some books. So I donated a couple of my ballpark mysteries. So stay tuned for people who are going to get some books, Aaron and Gwen. And they're going to have the first editions, as I call them, because I don't know what's going on with the re-releases, but I'm hoping they'll have different covers. Although I love my covers, don't get me wrong, but with a new publisher comes new stuff. Anyway, Either way, you can see I'm a little loopy. I was watching the Tour de France this morning. It was great. Oh my God, I haven't even talked about the Red Sox yet. So last time when we talked, yes, last week, I was cautiously optimistic because they had won against the Nationals, and I was like, no, it's the Nationals though. Like they've done this before where they win against bad teams and then they lose. Um, yeah, they haven't lost since that talk. So we're 9-game win streak, and yesterday Garrett Crochet had a complete game not a no hitter, complete game shutout for the first time in his career. Granted, it was only a 1-0 game, and I don't love those because that's boring sometimes. But it was also a pitcher's duel, and it went quickly. So before last week, if it was a 1-0 game, the Red Sox were probably going to lose. If it was a 1-run game of either way, they were going to lose. On what day are we on? We're on Sunday. So on Friday night, Cedar Rafaela hit a walk-off home run, and you kind of felt that was coming, even though they were down runs. So I don't know if it's because when I went to the pictures on the field at Fenway for the Red Sox game, I mentioned several times how I think they needed to fire the hitting coach, not the pitching coach. I love Andrew Bailey, but Pete Fatsy was getting a lot of the smoke from me, and I don't know if he heard it because there were a lot of coaches walking around taking pictures with people. So mea culpa to Pete Fatsy. Granted, 1-0's not great. You need to hit more than that, but hopefully we'll see what happens today with my guy Bayo on the mound. Yeah, fingers crossed. I'd love a sweep of the Rays before the All-Star break. Other sports, I don't know. Nothing's going on. We're halfway through the baseball season. That's kind of where my head's at. So I do want to get to the interview because it was so good. Shout out to, I don't know if I said this, shout out to David Raymond. We talk about the Pirates and their ownership. Those of you that have been listening to the podcast for a while, you know that's from Bobblehead George. Great guy, great team that puts a lot of videos together. And a big Pirates fan. So we talk about that. We talk about the Oakland A's, which for those that know, Oakland, the ownership is horrific, and they've sold the team. They didn't sell the team. They are moving the team. They have no place to move it to. So they're playing in Sacramento at a minor league park. And on the radio, they've been calling it Oaklamento. So that's what I'm going to call them from now on. But otherwise, I'm just cautiously optimistic about the Red Sox, and I hope they don't ruin the vibes by trading somebody else. I mean, I thought it was going to be a vibe killer when they traded Devers, but apparently I was wrong. So maybe Craig Bresler knew what he was doing because now Raffy's hurt or something. I do miss him. He looked like a little big kid, and I was just like, nah. But I do love all the young guys. That Chapman I could do without, and I think the reason this intro didn't record the first time is because I talked some crap about them going to the White House, and maybe it was like, don't do politics, Nicole, but y'all know what my politics are, so just go with it, all right? So anyway, without further ado, here's John and Leeroy from the Baseball Book Club. So welcome back to Baseball Books and Banter with me, Nicole, and my guests today are, this is completely random, but I belong to a Facebook group called Baseball Books on Facebook. Said that already, on Facebook, and these gentlemen posted about their podcast. So I was like, well, hello, Baseball Books and me. So their podcast is the Baseball Book Club, and they kind of they use books of now, of before, of during, to discuss baseball and its evolution, I guess, for lack of a better word. So welcome, John. Welcome, Leeroy.
Thank you, Nicole. It's awesome to be on here. We appreciate you having us as your guest.
Yeah, Nicole, nice to be here. Thank you very much.
I was so excited to see like Baseball Book Club in a sentence. So if you listen to my old podcast, I have a friend who works at Fenway Park Concessions, and she's my baseball buddy, and she takes my books to the ballpark. She does all that stuff. So I know there's a lot of people out there who like to read, but who also want to read about something they love, which is baseball. So how did this kind of podcast kind of coalesce? When did it start? And how do you guys know each other? That kind of good stuff.
Yeah, well, we've known each other for about 10 years, but it was through a fantasy baseball league. I ran a fantasy baseball league a long time ago. Leeroy joined that league, and Then we got into another league a few years back. And in that league, we started a private podcast, just like giving the guys in the league like information on the league itself.
Hmm.
And Leeroy was part of that podcast. And at one point, I think it was about a year and a half ago, we decided, let's just do a real podcast, because we're kind of like spinning our wheels here doing a podcast for 12 guys.
Right.
And so we both kind of worked behind the scenes separately on like what we wanted to do, what our goals were. And we both came up with, well, we kind of wanted to do a sort of book club type of a podcast, and that's where it started. We did a lot of behind the scenes planning over the spring and summer of last year, and then finally went live back in August. So this is we had was it 12 episodes, Leeroy, I think last fall.
Yes.
And then we took a break and then started it back up in the spring for season 2. So that's kind of where we're at right now.
That's so awesome.
Leeroy, I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
Yeah, I do. Well, the original podcast was a necessity more than anything else, because there was fantasy baseball league drama and updates that needed to be quelled. And so what could have been just a quick 4 or 5 minutes, okay, guys, here's what's going on, here's what you need to know, here's the rule changes, kind of it quickly evolved into, oh, well, I've got a little segment that we could do. Oh, we might as well make it a little bit more entertaining, since we've got their attention for 4 minutes. We might as well make it 10. And then I think just kind of exercising our podcast muscles early on, kind of figured out, oh, you know what, we can actually do this. Now, I will say that one angle of our podcast is that, there's a lot of shows out there who are trying to stay on the cutting edge of what's happening in the game, in free agency, in the prospect market, hot stove, all that jazz. But that's not really John and I's take. Like, we're a little bit more on the slow burn when it comes to reading some of these books, that some that we've read before and some that we've always wanted to read, but just kind of using baseball literature, both fact and fiction, as a way to essentially just contemplate on the game that we love, and the history of where we live, and the evolution of culture. And baseball has always been kind of kind of a side indicator. Whatever's going on with the sport, you can kind of parallel along with what's going on, kind of with history to an extent too. So that's another angle of what we're doing. We're not trying to be the latest information on what's going on with the baseball game. We're a little bit more trying to give you the latest information on what happened 75 years ago, possibly, but. And also, there's a relevancy between that and
Oh,
what's
yeah.
happening in the game today.
Oh, 100%. And I think, and it's nice to not have, because I live in Boston, so I have a lot of talk radio to listen to of the Boston variety. And it's nice to listen to people talk about baseball. The I hate, this is such a cliche, but the romantic side of baseball, the undercurrent of stuff, instead of the, oh, we need to talk about the cap, we need to talk about, trades, we need to talk this, we need hot stove, we need all this kind of stuff. It's nice to slow it down, which is how I remember listening to baseball back in the day with my grandfather, where it was just, it's something to do. You got, there's storylines. Although when you were talking fantasy baseball, all I could think about was what, 2 or 3 years ago, when Tommy Pham got into the fight with whomever on his team, and
Yep.
and then we got him for like half a season. And I was like, oh, he's just misunderstood. But no,
Yeah.
it was like, I can understand why you needed a talk down podcast to bring down the thing. But it's one of those, and it's even funny because I went to school in Florida. My dad was Navy, so we moved all around. But one of the things that I never got into fantasy, but I had a math teacher in 7th grade who used kind of like a basic fantasy structure. But looking back, he probably just wanted us to like bet for him. So he was like, yeah, you guys figure out the batting averages and ever that stuff and then give it to me. And now I'm like, oh, Mr. Taylor was probably gambling on the side.
That's fine.
But it got me hooked on kind of learning the minutia of the game. I just knew I liked to see dudes hitting a ball and running around bases and my team. Talk about a little bit about your fandom. Do you have, I mean, specific teams that you still follow, or do you, are there certain stories of your team that you love to talk about?
Well, let me take this one first, Leroy, because Nicole, I grew up in southern New Hampshire, probably
Oh,
about an hour from where you're at right now.
okay.
I don't know if you know where Portsmouth is, but
Oh, I do. My
I grew
family
up
is
in the.
originally from Nashua, so
Okay,
I
okay.
know that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I have a big family, grew up with seven siblings, and we're split down the middle, Red Sox and Yankees.
Wow.
I'm a Yankees fan, so when I saw that you were a Red Sox fan, I thought it was kind of funny. And
Yikes.
um, yeah, it was a great 6 or 7 years there between '98 and 2004. That was just so much fun to watch between those two teams. That's probably my peak interest
Sure.
during that time. And then when the Red Sox broke the curse, I kind of
Checked
my
out.
interest waned a little bit.
Yeah. Now they're
Not,
not
I mean,
the
I'm
not
still a
the fun
baseball fan, but
team.
I love the history of the game more than
Yeah.
the current stuff. Yep.
So John is the East Coast representative of the show. I am the West Coast
Okay.
representative
Mm-hmm.
of the show. Grew up in Southern California, Angels fan since 1979. Of course, like every good boy in Los Angeles, though, we all start off as Dodger fans, especially in the late 70s. But yeah, that's, when it comes to that, something I was thinking while we were talking is that these seasons, these baseball seasons, go so quick.
Mm,
And you were mentioning something about statistics a minute ago, and it reminded me of something I was reading this season about there's a time in our lives where we're too young to understand what minutia and
mhm.
trivia is actually worth remembering forever and incorporating into, kind of who you are and what you know and what's just kind of fluff on the outside. It's not until you're past maybe 12 or 13 where you start to get that into perspective,
Yeah.
right?
Mm.
And so, you know, as far as sports is concerned, I've got a little bit of a relationship with baseball that goes like this, is that I'm going to be forever kind of stuck in the romance of
Mm,
1986, of the 1979 season. And as you become older and you really begin to get it through your head what's worth remembering and what's not as far as minutia is concerned, and also the cynicism of how professional sports works kind of starts to color your vision compared to how you were when you were a kid. It was all about heroes and about playing the game right when you're a kid. Now you realize so much of it is about money and
right.
politics and all this. Is that I think in some ways this podcast for us allows us to kind of freeze time back in 1983, freeze time in 68, freeze time in 2001 even, or what have you, so we can kind of remember the game and celebrate the game with the same hearts that we did as kids without so much of the, you know, like I mentioned, the cynicism that you kind of gather when you get a little older. And so I think there's a return to innocence in both of us, is that we kind of want to remember the game the way we loved it. And it maybe at times it comes off like we're the two stodgy Muppets up on the balcony, you know. But I think that's part of what we're doing here is we're trying to, because it's like I mentioned, these seasons, they go so
Oh
fast.
my God, we're already halfway through.
We're
Like,
already halfway
Yep.
through another one, and what
yeah,
happened last season, and I remember when I was 9, what happened in the 1979 baseball season was pretty epic. Like I couldn't really discern whether or not that was going to be one of the more important seminal events of my life or not. Which of course it is. No, but and so that being said, is I think there's a nostalgia and a reminiscence and a romance, like you mentioned. I think our podcast, to an extent, it's a romance of
yeah.
of what we love and how long we've loved it.
It's
Yeah, that's the
the
sorry, I was
story.
gonna say that's yeah, I was just gonna say that was the appeal for both of us because we just I think it's so easy to look back on the game and kind of fall in love with it in that
Mm,
perspective, as opposed to being a little bit more jaded with the way things are going today. And so that's kind of where Leroy and I both kind of collect together. And it's like he said, it's just so easy to be romantic about what happened 50 or 100 years ago.
mm.
Yeah, like if I come to run into anyone who can talk 2002 World Series with me, it's like I've ran into somebody on the train who knows a
Hmm.
common friend. We know,
Right.
oh, you know such and such from Wamsutter, Wyoming? So do I. Isn't that such a crazy coincidence? And now we have something to talk about. Or almost like this hunger, like we want to really dig into it. Oh, I know the corner store over there where they sell the pancakes or whatever. Well, when you meet someone who is kind of there and with it and cognizant and
Right.
following the 2002 World Series, and you meet that person, it's like, oh, we really have something to reminisce and talk about, which isn't just what's
Yeah.
happening now, you know? So
It
in some
provides that
ways,
connection
yeah,
that we don't always get as
Hmm.
adults. It's
absolutely.
hard to make friends as adults, but when you find like I went to the Red Sox game a couple weeks ago, and in line, you're talking to people who want to be there, who know the sport, who want to
Yeah.
talk baseball. And what do you think about the Rafael Devers trade? What do you think
Hmm.
about the spending? And it provides that connection that's especially after the pandemic, where you're not seeing people all the
Right.
time.
Right.
And
Yeah.
while the internet can be a toxic place, I fully admit that there are still pockets where you can get like the baseball books page in your podcast, where you see somebody post something and you're like, oh, somebody else thinks like me.
Hmm.
Oh, that's good to know. I like that. Like, that's nice.
Yeah, and it's something that transcends political
Yep.
opinions and people's personal identities like and it's bigger than just, you know, 20,000 fans in Fenway on a
Mhm.
Tuesday night. It's bigger than that. It's the body collective of all Red Sox
I
fans
mean,
or
like
all.
John said,
Yeah,
he's from New Hampshire and still had a big Red Sox fan. My grandfather was from Nashua, grew up a Red Sox fan, and then they moved to Connecticut, and we all kind of became Red Sox. It's
yeah,
also the lineage of your fandom
Yeah.
sometimes helps. You almost feel like family because you're like, oh,
right.
you grew up the same way I grew up. Okay, we're good.
See,
Like,
now, Nicole, I am not a Red Sox fan, but I am bonded to you in some
oh,
distant way through trauma
oh
because I
yeah,
immediately, you being a Red Sox fan, I want to talk Dave Henderson with you, as I know John knows that I want to talk
Yeah.
Dave Henderson, but and, and so it's, you know, being an Angels fan, Dave Henderson is part of our dark history of, you know, 80s baseball as an Angels fan. And so that's just it, is that me not being a Red Sox fan at all, I have business with you.
right. We're almost like you said, trauma bonded. Like you have
We
that
are.
trauma, we have the trauma of 2003 against the Yankees with
Mm.
Aaron Bleep and Boone and the before Jimmy
Right.
Wakefield, like stuff like that. You almost every I don't know if every team has this, probably not some of the newer teams, but the older teams, the Dodgers, the Red Sox, the Yankees, the
For sure.
everything. There's always that one story that's like the saddest story of your fandom and you will never forget it, and it's in
Hmm.
that little box in your chest, and just sometimes you have to talk about it because you're like, that was where disappointment came from, that's
Yes.
where this kind of came from. And again, trauma bonding, you're just like, oh, at least I know somebody feels the same way, that I'm not
Sure.
alone in my despair. I also had mono in 2003, so like it was mono. We lost the game. I was in college. I was locked in my room. Like it was just everything piles up. But then we
Well,
won the next year, so it was
and
fine.
Nicole, even if it's not shared trauma, like, and I hate to keep bringing up the 1986 World Series for you,
No, you don't.
but you know, Bill Buckner,
Mm-hmm.
it even though I didn't have too much of an emotional stake in that, it was like a car accident that
Mm-hmm.
100 million people watched in real
Mm.
time. It happening all in slow motion as the ball goes through Buckner's legs, and so we're all kind of drinking from the same collective font, which I'll say I think that's something that's missing
Yeah.
in today's society because media has been so fragmented and so specialized along niches and likes. I think something that's missing in America is there are very few seminal bonding experiences that we're all partaking of all at the same time. You know, like back in the day when there was only 4 or 5 channels you can get on TV, or we all knew we were watching the Muhammad Ali match, you
Mm-hmm.
know, like now
It's like
someone
the
could be,
Super Bowl.
yeah,
You get
somebody's
one.
watching the Puppy Bowl while the Super
Yep.
Bowl's on, and someone's decided to watch the National Hot Rod Association reruns on the same day. Like
Sure.
it, So I think that that's something that another phenomenon, especially with baseball, that we can all kind of partake of together in the way it kind of bonds us together.
And an example of that, not to be like recency bias, but 2 days ago when Cedon Rafaela hit the walk-off home run, I've watched about 500 videos on TikTok of the same angle, the same video, just people in the stand, and that kind of being like, oh, this is, yeah, we're all kind of together. I mean, I
Mm-hmm.
was cheering, I was listening to it on the radio. The walk off happened, then I turned the TV on to watch the aftermath. So it's kind of like you said, it's a way you don't have that as much anymore because everybody, you don't need to like what everybody likes because there's a million things to watch. There's streaming, there's all this. I think baseball is trying to get better at that by doing these like the Clubhouse on Netflix where they're like, here's the people behind the team, because that's, I think, gotten away from a lot from the earlier days of baseball, is that you knew the person, you knew what their back, you know, who they, where they came from, who they were, and they weren't commodities, they were people.
Right.
And I think now we see that, oh, a lot of owners just think of them as commodities. So you don't
Mm-hmm.
learn the personalities, you don't learn what everybody's like. And so when you do, you're like, oh my God, this is a human person and I love them. Like they're just like me. Stars, they're just like us. So I do think that's one of the things that has changed in the past bunch of years. And
Oh,
maybe
for
fantasy
sure.
is part of that too, because
Yeah. I'm on a bunch of Facebook team pages, just different pages,
yeah,
just to kind of outreach our show. And the poor Pittsburgh Pirates fans,
I know.
all the time they want their owner, I think his name's Nutter, to sell. They just call for him to sell, because I mean Paul Skeens and
Hmm.
just the team is just overall. I think it was just yesterday they broke even as a lifetime franchise. It's like 8,000 and some odd wins and 8,000 and some odd losses. They're dead even at 500. And for a long time, they were over 500. So it's just 8 losing seasons in a row.
Um,
And so you're right, though. It's the mentality has kind of shifted, and fans are much more jaded with ownership. And it just feels like owners are more about just if they can line their wallet, then wins and losses don't really matter as much. And so it's kind of ties along with what you're saying is the players kind of being a commodity.
which is
And
exactly what I thought about the Rafael Devers trade when it happened. I'm like, oh, they're
yeah,
just trying to save money. And now, of course, I'm like, oh, but then we won 8 in a row. Oh, then it's
right.
Yeah.
totally fine. Never mind. I never don't listen to my old podcast
Short
episodes where
memories.
I'm like, why did they trade Rafi? And I'm like, oh, just kidding. Now, if they trade
Mm-hmm.
Duran, I might have a meltdown again because
Mm.
we can't stop it. Stop it, John Henry. Stop it.
Well, the fans are products these days too.
Right.
I mean,
Oh yeah.
you mentioning just pushing paper names around on a page and, less of the identity. That I think that's part of the jadedness that the modern fan can detect is that we're potted plants, or at least we feel that way a lot of the times ourselves. And a perfect example is to talk about another wretched baseball organization, the Colorado Rockies, right now. It's clear that what Monfort is up to in Denver, he sells Coors Light and
Mm-hmm.
Sunshine. He doesn't
Mm-hmm.
sell championship baseball.
Mm-hmm.
And if
Yep.
that business model is always going to work,
Yeah.
there's always going to be, no matter how bad the team is, there's always people who are going to come out for a sausage, a chili sausage, and for a sunshine and a date night with cold beer like
Yep.
that. And that's what I think frustrates, well,
Absolutely.
everybody, but I
Yeah.
think some of us especially kind of grew up with what was at least perceived as a different ethos about trying to win and trying to get to the big dance. I
Right.
think there's so many of us who are beginning to detect it now that it's like, oh, these people aren't serious about winning.
Right.
Yeah. They're selling 3 hours of entertainment while we're buying what is hopefully into a championship team.
Yeah.
Right. To somebody we can root for, to
Right.
cheer for.
Yeah.
Like you said, the Rockies. I mean, well, I mean, really, we can talk about the grand dam of all annoying ownership, which is the A's, which with
Mm.
everything going on out there, like, what are you guys doing?
Yeah.
They don't know what they're doing.
No, and they're really just I can't swear, but I want to swear because like they're just so bad out there, and I feel bad because again, I mean, I lived in again, my dad was Navy, so we lived in Monterey for 2 years, and we would go up to to San Francisco and Oakland, and it's like there's a history there, and to see people come in and not care about the foundation of what they came
Right.
into if they're not the original owners, and to think of it as something. And I think again this probably goes to my East Coast bias with, but then again I lived in DC when the Nationals came back, or whatever, and they really went at the beginning with the new stadium, although I worked right next to it, and they really did try to engender the community spirit. I don't know if they still do it because I'm not down there. I still follow them, and they're not good this year. But it's just one of those like you don't know. I wish I had a better understanding sometimes, and I don't think ownerships give the audience, the fans, enough of that back door. You see the trade. You see here's, oh, we're discussing blah 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 blah, but they're not giving you that. I have a plan, and maybe
Mhm.
their plan is I just plan to make money for as long as I can, then sell it for a profit. Fine. That's shitty. Sorry for swearing, but that's your plan. Like, just tell us. We're smart people. A lot of baseball fans are smart people.
Yeah.
Yep.
Something that you were getting at that I kind of want to circle back around to is what feels like now with Monfort, you can't, he's
Yeah.
the original owner of that franchise.
Right.
So Colorado, I guess you're off the hook. But
Yeah.
the Athletics and the Pirates, John, you were mentioning, or who is it, that they're just broke even all those years of
Yeah.
winning in the 70s, all of those great Pirates teams in
Yeah.
both
The
the
Honus
early.
Wagner years. Yeah.
Oh yeah, clear through the We Are Family
Yep.
Pirates and even the Bonds and Bonilla Pirates
Hmm.
and the Andy Van Slyke Pirates. I could go on, but to see as a franchise like that, or the A's, all those Connie Mack years and
Yeah.
all of those
Oh my
World
God.
Series years,
Yeah.
the Bash Brothers, to see these storied, historic franchises that are older than you, in fact, are older than your daddy
Probably. Yeah.
being treated and as a commodity to the way they are. I
An
think to the
asset.
yeah, exactly to the reverent baseball fan who loves and respects the game, there's something abhorrent about
Yeah.
it. These are antiques. These are
Right. Exactly.
honored grandfathers of the game
Yeah.
in a way. We're supposed to care,
Yep.
about their
Yep.
histories and how it goes and run these organizations with dignity and so I think that conflates a little bit with our expectations of the games too, and hence why the baseball book club is even necessary. So we can say, well, never mind this, how corrupt it is today. We'll go back to, which is the butt of my joke. Who is the guy in the 70s? Charlie Finley. Charlie Finley didn't do too much better as an owner in some ways, for the A's back in the late 60s and the 70s. So the story continues to
Okay.
circle around, and eventually we get back to owners versus players pre-free agency. I suppose to some extent the game has always been a little weird and corrupt, but
But now we have more ways to see how weird and corrupt it is. I think before
Oh, for
yeah,
sure.
the 70s, there
Oh,
was
it's much more
internet.
exposed
So
now.
yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
You had to depend on your newspaper reporters to say, oh guys, there's a lot of
Hmm.
corrupt stuff happening. And you're like, oh, okay. But here you can actually,
yeah.
search
Well,
things.
in hindsight, it's 2020, and we
Right.
have
That too.
this strange ability as human storytellers to reminisce and romance now that we
Yeah.
know that the outcome is everything turned out okay, so to speak.
And I
Which
love that you brought it back to the book club because that's probably what people want to listen to. And here's we just taking our hot takes about baseball. And even though you said you don't hot take, but
I'll hot take
I'll
when
hot take
asked
till the
to
cows
hot
come
take if I
home.
want.
But no, so I love that idea of kind of, I have a lot of friends who grew up obviously baseball fans. So you talking about the Pirates, friend of the program, David Raymond from the Bobblehead George Gentleman. He has been a Pirates fan for decades, and we text back and forth, and he's like, they won, oh my God, I went to a game and they beat the Mets, and it's like, oh, that's so exciting, I'm so happy for you.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's the kind of joy or those are the kind of fans you're trying to reel in, is the people who do have that nostalgia for listening to games with their grandparents, or watching the World Series together and crying or whatever. And so how do you find the books that you, like you said, you've read some of them, you haven't read some of them. How do you find kind of the books you want to talk about and all that good stuff?
A lot of the books that we're going, well, guests that we're having this year and coming up next year, a lot of those people have reached out to us knowing that we are a book club podcast. So we're getting a lot of interest in that way, where people are reaching out to us. But I think the content that we're going through, separate from our guests, is something that, like, we just kind of stumbled along during our planning. Like, Leeroy had read Joe Posnanski a couple of books, and we're going through his
Right.
we have two books that we're going through with him, and it's the majority of our baseball content, which it does allow us to do excuse me, a lot of that history. That is what we're trying to go through. So it's a combination of the stuff that we found, and then the stuff that we're people are coming to us with their stuff that they're writing.
That's awesome.
Hmm.
We have about 10 minutes left because I
Okay.
don't pay for Zoom, just because I'm cheap. And also nobody pays me for this podcast. So I need to,
Yep.
do expenses as needed. So I do like to ask guests book recommendations. And since you guys are baseball book people, what books have you read? Do you recommend, just, or even books that have just stuck with you forever, would you recommend to readers, especially readers who like baseball?
Yeah, Leeroy, take it first.
Okay, so my favorite baseball book, uh, I would say that I mean, and I've read quite a few of them, but I would say that my favorite baseball book would probably be Cardboard Gods.
Hmm.
And I'm trying to remember, I think it was Josh Wilker, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was Josh
John?
Walker.
Yeah,
Yep.
Josh Wilker, Cardboard Gods. An all-American tale told through baseball cards.
Ooh.
Uh, it's basically, yeah, it's about baseball, but it's really tied to kind of what I was speaking to before, is that baseball is this background radiation to growing up. It's
Mm-hmm.
this energy, it's this trivia, it's this background noise to the day at the beach, the day that your brother yelled at you while you were washing the car, the day, where you were living when you were 11 years old and how you felt about it. Like, all along is that you've got kids trying to make sense of who they are and where they are and what do they do, is especially back when I was a young baseball fan. They didn't have YouTube and they didn't have ESPN. The only thing you really knew about the baseball players that you either listened to on the radio or watched on TV might have been from baseball cards.
Yeah.
Going back to how important is it who led the league in walks, in 1981? But that being said, is that that book is about a boy growing up in a very unconventional family, kind of a hippie family, and
Mm-hmm.
his difficulty kind of fitting in to wherever it is that they go. But he's got this box of baseball cards, and it's beyond just what they did and statistically what they did, but all these people are kind of characters and personalities, regardless of how silly they look in their baseball card picture, or how epic they look staring off into the upper deck as they hit a foul ball. It still looks like a Greek god is
Yeah.
doing it somehow. Nothing, no, very few books that I've read really encapsulate the energy and nostalgia of being a young baseball fan quite like that. So yeah, I would say Josh Wilker's Cardboard Gods is such a recommendation of mine. John, I know that we've gone through a lot of different titles on the show, but what do you think?
Well, I would say there's two books that I would recommend. The first is one that we are going through, and it's Joe Posnanski's Why We Love Baseball.
Mm-hmm.
And what I love about this is that they're short chapters, 5 or 6 pages, where you could just digest a quick story. And they're all about specific moments in the history of the game, but great moments like Sandy Koufax's perfect game. Just different stories that you can really learn a lot about the history of the game. That's the first one. The second one was one of our guests, Todd Markham. We had him on, I think, the second episode of this season. His book is called Baseball Cards at the Edge of War. And this book, I love this book so much because it goes through the 1941 season. And at the first half of the book, he just talks about the game, the Negro Leagues, all of the backstory stuff. But the back half of the book, the second half of the book, it's funny because Leeroy's book is about baseball cards as well. But this book has the entire collection of the 1941 season of baseball cards, and every card has a little bio or a little story about each one, and you can learn so much about each of the players, and it's incredibly fascinating, and it really stays in that vein of baseball nostalgia. And if that's something that's appealing to you, I would totally recommend this book, Baseball Cards at the Edge of War by Todd Markham.
Down too. Very excited. Look at people all the time. They're like, "Do you actually read these?" I was like, "I have so many books, but yes, I do order a lot of these books afterwards because they just sound so good." And speaking of baseball cards, I'm not a collector, or really wasn't. My brother was, but there is a guy on TikTok called Baseball Stance Guy. He used to do just YouTube stuff and all that, but this week they've started doing recreations of baseball cards from like the 70s. And so it's like, look confused and catch a ball. And it's just really, so if you guys like the baseball cards, look up his account. He's been really funny about it.
So you mean like a revamped, like modern players, but doing it in the old.
Right. That's so cool. I would love
that. Sounds kind of cool.
I would 10 out of 10 buy those cards if they did it with the 70s mustaches.
Sure. Nice. Or the Oscar glasses. Gamble with the afro.
I would
the big hairdos,
both sides. Yeah.
In a heartbeat. But thank you guys so much for joining. This was first of all, I love getting to talk to baseball with people because my cats don't care when I talk to them about baseball. They're like, just let us sleep, Mom. Like, stop. And I also love talking about it before the Red Sox win their 9th straight, because then I feel smart and I feel like I'm providing good
on top of the world right now.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. So thank you again so much. Everybody go check out. I'll put the link to your podcast in the description so people can just click it and check it out.
Thank you, Nicole. It's nice to meet you.
Yeah. Nicole, thank you so much. This was a blast.
Like, cool, right? And I listened to a couple episodes when I was in traffic on my way to Cape Cod because I needed something to listen to. I'm going to need something more in September, guys, because I'll be driving to Pennsylvania for my high school reunion, and I like to listen to things instead of just zone out in the Jersey Turnpike. Although I'll probably go 84, 81, so not Jersey Turnpike, but whatever. That's neither here nor there. So check out their the Baseball Book Club on anywhere you get your podcast. Follow them on Facebook. They're two great guys. They tell stories. They talk about books. They talk about baseball. There's even some music. It's just a really enjoyable time, and they're two good guys. So check that out. I did write down all the books they recommended, as you can see, and I've starred them because I do want to check those out, especially the 1941 season. That seems really cool, where you learn about the season and then you learn about the players individually. So check them out. Also, what else can I tell you? We'll talk about books that I'm reading right now because it's very exciting. I have had a really good week winning books. So I've won a couple of historical mysteries. I brought this one. If it's a hardcover, I take the thing off because I don't want to ruin it. But it's this book, The Botanist's Guide to Rituals and Revenge, which is the 4th book in this series. I'm obsessed. So obsessed, in fact, that I got the library book last week, and then I remembered that I won the book. So I'm returning the library book, obviously, but at least it goes to show that I don't just buy books, guys. I win books too. I also won a new one from Olivia Blake has the new Colleen Cambridge book for the Philadia Bright series, and she ended up with an extra one, so she's opened it up to her followers, of which I am one, obviously, because she's a friend of the program. And so I'm gonna get that one, which I'm very excited about. And then I won some books last night at bingo. And that's just what I need, right? Oh my God, look at all the books. Every time I do that, I usually get a cardinal at the window. And I think it's my mom checking in to be like, lady, we've talked about this before. And just because I'm not here anymore does not mean I cannot tell you and be judgy about your books. So it's okay, Mom. It's helping friends and I love it. So we're good. I'm also going to get started. I think somebody recommended this a while ago. Elementary She Read by Vicki Delaney. I just found my mass market size because I love a mass market size because it fits in my purse. And it's also easy to hold in the bathtub when I'm reading. So I'm going to check that out as well. What else can I tell you? I got my book 3 re-edited. So Foul Play at the Park, book 3, I got re-edited through a lovely lady on Readsy, which I highly recommend. I think I talked about this before. So I'm going to start going through those. I printed it out, wasted a lot of ink at my house. That's what happens when you work from home. So that I turn into the publisher in September and still tentatively planned for next September. So September 2026. Hopefully the book will be coming. Also, books 1 and 2 are going to be with Level Best, and I haven't gotten any updates yet, but I will let you know as soon as I get updates about that. Regardless, things I've got coming up. Not much, which is nice because it's quiet. So if you want me for anything, just call me, email. Don't call me, text me, email me. I just still did the call like a millennial, like call me. Click. In September, I'm going to go up to Portland for the weekend to do the Maine Crime Wave. They've asked me back, and so I'm very honored, and I attribute that to good friend Jewel Selbo, friend of the program. Beginning of September, attention Pennsylvania, I'll be in Mechanicsburg for my reunion on September 6th. But I'm also working with Misty Simon, who's also in Mechanicsburg, to do a book event that Saturday as well. Hopefully at Cupboard Maker Books. We're still figuring that stuff out, but hopefully I'll do a book event. If not, if you have a bookstore you want me to go to, or if you want me to go back to Mechanicsburg Mystery Bookshop, which I will because I love them, just let me know. Or I'll be coming down that Friday, so I should be there like early afternoon. So if there's something you want me to do on Friday, I will be around. I'll be tired, but I'll be around. And then I'll leave Sunday. So Mechanicsburg, attention. I'm coming back. I'm coming back because I'm so much cooler now than I was in high school. So, like, just know that, guys. I might be fatter, but I'm cooler. So, we're going to go with it, all right? But on that note, that's all that's really going on. Nothing like crazy. Oh, September 22nd, I'll be at the Bridgewater Public Library, but you'll see all that stuff coming out on the internet. Also, if you are a Sisters in Crime member, well, I guess you don't have to be, but if you're a mystery writer who likes to write short fiction, follow my socials because I'm putting together with Larissa Clarisi a really cool chocolate short fiction mystery themed contest. And if you're in the Plymouth area and want to come see us, see other people read their stories, we're going to do a noir at the bar on October 12th, but I'll talk about that more as it gets closer. So just some things that are out there. And if you have any Sisters in Crime, New England suggestions, thoughts, questions, I'm your vice president. So just, again, don't call me, text me, email me, message me, because I'm a millennial. I don't answer the phone. And on that note, go Red Sox and